Hi, I'm Don Rose. I'm a car specialist at RM Auctions. I'm here today in a 1953 H.R.G. H being one of the letters of the alphabet, representing today all 26 letters of the alphabet, from A to Z. Believe it or not, there's a car and a model built for each of the letters. These 26 cars in the A to Z collection, I believe, to my knowledge, are the only complete alphabet collection in the world. John Moir grew up around cars. His family understood quality, they recognized engineering, they bought the best and they kept it forever, in a nutshell. So we start with the story of the 1911 French Brazier. That was a four-seat tourer that his father bought new as his first car in 1911. The car remained in the family and was augmented in 1933 by one of the most fantastic cars of the classic car era of the 30s, a V16 Cadillac in its most desirable form, a two-seat sports roadster from 1930. The Moir family bought it secondhand in 1933, and it's been in the family in its original colors for over 80 years, and it's the feature car of the A to Z collection here tonight. I believe conceptually a collection of 26 cars, each representing a letter of the alphabet from A to Z, to be unique in the world. The challenge for John Moir, the collector-curator of this collection, a most fascinating man who's got a love and a passion for cars that goes back to his father, had the challenge of finding cars that began with the letters Q, for which he found a car called the Queen, a Y, a yellow cab, a Z, a French roadster called a Zebra, and the toughest one, I think, might have been the X. There's a car called a Xanthos, which is the youngest car in the collection, which happens to also span the entire century from 1900 to 1999, with the Xanthos being a replica of a Lotus 23B. With the Moir family passion for cars already well established, with the 1911 Brazier and then the 1930 Cadillac sports roadster, which John ended up driving to college in 1950, but found it hard to park, his father inquired of a friend of his in England, what's a proper car for a university student? And himself a Lagonda owner, he said, oh, absolutely, it's an AC, particularly a 2-liter Buckland. So they bought one. Had to be perhaps one of the first in the country. This was John's first car, 1950 AC. So he found himself with the AC, the Brazier, and the 1930 Cadillac, all long-term family cars. His wife, also English, said to John at one point, who by this stage was fascinated by other cars as well, well, you've got an A and a B and a C, why don't you just go for the whole alphabet? So the John Moir A to Z collection is eclectic by anybody's standards. And if there was a unifying theme beyond the alphabet, I think it's probably John's appreciation for automobiles where he found the intersection of design and engineering. Mixed in, of course, with his own taste for the unusual, I think we have something here in total that's absolutely unique, and we're so proud to represent it and to represent John and his unique vision. So here we have not only the highlight, one must argue, of the Moir A to Z collection, but perhaps the feature car of the entire Hershey 2014 sale. It is a 1930 Cadillac V16 Sport Roadster. So Cadillac V16s were the highest life form available in 1930 for a Cadillac, which also made 12 cylinders and 8 cylinders. And in V16 form, The sportiest and probably the fastest as well is the two-seat Sport Roadster. Very quick car in its day, capable of 100 miles an hour. These cars, along with Duesenbergs, Chrysler Imperials, Packard 12s, are known as the best driving cars of the 1930s classic era. So as well as performance, speed, and rarity today, the features of this car would include just about anything your 1930 Playboy might need to have in his car. Rumble seat, in case he needed any extra passengers. You see the cabinet behind the front door. That's the space for your golf clubs. So you're pretty well set in 1930 to drive and to be seen in a car such as a 30 V16 Sport Roadster. So there's Cadillac V16s and there's Cadillac V16 Sport Roadsters. This car has been in the single family ownership since 1933. That's over 80 years, which must be some kind of a record and probably in the longest term single family ownership on the planet. So here you've got the highest level of Depression era Cadillac in its most desirable body form, with an unquestioned history and also in its original colors, which have remained on the car since new. 1934 Lancia Augusta with a one-off English body by March. March was famous, Freddie March, a race car driver in his day, but also happened to be the Duke of Richmond. And as a hobbyist, he also designed automobiles. The Lancia, of course, is an Italian car, but they were viewed from an engineering standpoint as little jewels. And that must have been what attracted our Duke to this car and to build this body in the heart of the Art Deco era. And this car is just filled with small Art Deco touches that make it a magnificent example of that era. The Augusta, of course, was the V4 small horsepower Lancia model, but I think that its proportions lent itself perfectly to what Lord March was trying to accomplish here. Obviously there's a lot of green going on, which I happen to like, and it's extremely attractive on this car, which is one of the most recently restored concours condition cars of the entire A to Z collection. Representing the L, of course, we're thrilled to be representing it in particular, as well as the other 25 cars of the alphabet. This Augusta with its March body is the cutest little roadster, but what we also have here in a separate compartment are seats for the rest of the family. And you can see here we've got this clever step up to it. And the car is just covered with other nice details, and imaginative too. Notice the single rear dorsal fin in the back, which to me is one of the prettiest angles on the whole car. Also take a look at the fender edges where they go to an arrow tip at the end of those in the rear. And I especially like the detail of the one-hand operation of the fuel filler cap. Here's another car you don't see every day, an H.R.G. from 1953. Obviously it has a pre-war look to it, but they built them post-war essentially for racing. They could almost be looked at as an MG on steroids, and they were extremely competitive in post-war sports car racing. Very agile, and they made 1,000cc versions with a Meadows engine, and this, the top of the range, 1,500cc Singer engine car, which is personally, my opinion, would be the most fun car of all the cars in the A to Z collection to drive, and hoping to have the opportunity by the end of the weekend. So even though these cars competed with MGs in the day, they were much higher level, both in terms of their engineering and in terms of their cost, and not coincidentally the type of people who owned them. They were very much connoisseurs cars, in the classic British sports car tradition. So there's lots of details on this car that separate it from pre-war cars such as MGs. For example, and the most obvious of which is the lovely sweep of the front fenders, something I just can't get enough of. The lines overall are more sleek, more sophisticated than the other pre-war cars that it emulated. Like it a lot for that reason. Bit of a charming anachronism for its time, but highly entertaining. It's a phenomenal collection put together by a visionary man. It's our pleasure to represent it. It'll be sad in a way to see the collection broken up, but this means that there's going to be 26 people who can have a piece of the rock. I can't say enough about how much it means to me personally to have been given the opportunity to represent the collection for the Moir family.